they're just always at the center of it all, as we have multiple articles outlining Habs trades, including Dave Pagnotta, the fourth period, listing Josh Anderson as one of the top trade candidates for the rest of the offseason. Plus, a source out of Vancouver has been talking about how Vancouver, if they go full blow-up mode, how they could very well target a couple of young Montreal centers for their future. We got to dive into all of these articles, reports. I'll link down below. But also, there's a very interesting situation arising on the D-core this year with one guy who is still not yet signed and another that could very well push him out of the lineup. A lot of great stuff coming up on this episode of Habs Digest. And you know what? We'll start there, Jesse. And the inspiration for this does come from Ryan Spore's article, Likeliest Canadiens to be Odd Men Out in 25-26. Link down below. Check it out. It's a great article. There's a couple other ones here as well. Won't spoil them. Go check it out yourself. But there's one that I wanted to talk about here, Jesse, and it's something we've brought up a little bit, especially with Jayden Struble's arbitration case coming up. He should sign again before August 3rd. I'm not worried about it, but that date's coming. Jayden Struble versus David Reinbacher. Arber's playoff debut in Game 3 was seen as a turning point in this series. Hard to envision him as anything other than a regular third-pairing defenseman on this team, especially as he got in 70 games last season. And when you look at the pairings, it's like, right now we don't even have Struble in that top 6 on defense. He's the 7th guy, mostly because he's not signed. But when it comes to Reinbacher too, Jesse, I know he's a right shot D, but like, a lot of people are saying, like, this guy fills a need for Montreal right now. Look, Struble had some great underlying metrics, but what do you make of this battle? Do you think there's actually a world where a guy like David Reinbacher might manage to push Jayden Struble out of this 7-man defense rotation?
I think absolutely, and Xhekaj needs to be part of that conversation, but it's perhaps, Josh, like this internal competition, i.e. Reinbacher, Engstrom, to even thicken the plot further here, which is maybe some of the reason why, like, Struble is potentially going to arbitration if we can't get something kind of figured out ahead of here. He says, okay, there's a lot of competition. My future is probably up in the air. I better get what I can while I can here. Again, we've kind of inferred that in the show here going forward. I feel like, to be fair, like, Reinbacher's going to be really good. Do I think he's going to make the team right out of camp? Like, I think he's going to be really good out of camp, like, probably show up really good. But still, Struble and Xhekaj are going to get that inside track over him. But I think it's like once that injury happens, Josh, like that's where like all bets are off. It's like that's where Reinbacher, like you're going to have no choice but basically get him in the lineup. I think he's then going to play really well. And then best of luck trying to remove him from that spot because I feel like he's going to be holding on for dear life. Like he's a little bit more of a competitor than you think. Like David Reinbacher's got more dog in him than you think. Public service announcement right now. We're here for it. We love that. We know here in Habs Digest, we think a lot of the league is going to start seeing a lot more about David Reinbacher very shortly.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Again, 6 points in 13 playoff games with 2 goals. Like, he looked good in the playoffs. The dude is 6'3", 6'4", depending on the measurement. Like, I feel like we say this all the time, Jesse, but same thing with Guhle. I think people think they're smaller than they are. They're both bigger guys who are smooth skating, and if we like what we see from Guhle, Reinbacher does a lot of the same stuff, but from the right side, right? So there's a lot of great stuff coming with Reinbacher, and that style of play, and how much he could potentially jump this year after finally, maybe getting a full year, like being really, really, really ready. It's going to be interesting, so leave your thoughts. Could Reinbacher push one of our other defensemen like Xhekaj or Struble out of the rotation? Let us know down below. But speaking of pushing out, Jesse, like, look, the Vancouver Canucks, we don't really know what's going on with them right now. Jim Rutherford had some very interesting comments recently about, like, a little while ago, a few weeks ago, like, kind of implying that you never know. The Canucks could maybe blow it up. The Canucks might not. There's a lot of uncertainty around what's going on there. And just here via rg.org, this original article where you can find this quote linked down below as well. But an anonymous NHL source said it's such a delicate situation in Vancouver that it feels like they could go either way with this, either blow it up or go all in, depending on how they start the season. Ever since Rutherford said what he said, again, those kind of comments that just had fans like, in a loop there, everyone is just waiting to see what happens with them, and that leads to this. Now, this comes from Daily Hive, also linked down below. 9 young players with big potential the Canucks could target in a trade, and a couple of these guys, mainly Kirby Dach, Jesse, has been mentioned in the same breath as the Canucks before, and they even throw Newhook in there, right? They say, look, these two guys might be looking for a fresh start. I get where they're coming from. I don't necessarily agree, but they do make the point. Look, we got Ivan Demidov, we got Zach Bolduc. It's like, of all the Habs young core, if we were to trade someone young, these would be the expendable guys. What do you make of this, Jesse? I mean, not just maybe necessarily Vancouver going after either Dach or Newhook, because, they don't have too many assets I'm super interested in. There are definitely some. But, like, these two guys being targets for trades for other teams, to me, is a no-brainer, especially when you look at the rest of Montreal's forward core and the fact that Dach is due for a contract next year and Newhook the year after.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, when has it not been a delicate situation? Yeah. I mean, harkening back to Vancouver, a little too delicate for my liking there. But yeah, like, you have to feel, Josh, like, as soon as the Habs get that 2C, that very coveted, that Hughes is just striving for right now, like, the likelihood of a Kirby Dach trade in particular, just, I mean, like, skyrockets at that point in time there. Again, because with all the competition that we have within that top six, that's ideally where you're getting the best out of Kirby Dach. Again, that's kind of changing his whole situation. Like, I feel like this year is like that prove it sort of thing. Like, and we want Kirby Dach again, like, to have that kind of like Rudy moment this year where he just kind of surpasses all, kind of circumstances that have been in his way here. But again, it's going to be a Hail Mary, Josh. Like, we believe in Kirby Dach's ability, but like, the odds are stacked against him. It's like, can you stay healthy now? Because like, everybody's holding their breath right now when Kirby's on the ice, because we know how good he can be to this team, but it's really like, how long can he stay out there? Because if we want to keep him long term, if he wants to get extended, that's going to be the main thing. Like, the production for me, like, for Kirby Dach is going to come, like, as a result, I think, from the large part. It's just about getting healthy. As for Newhook, I find that a little bit less likely. I think, again, I've been getting to the point that he's going to, like, do very well in that third line. Mm-hmm. Montreal has now guys like Demidov, others you have to assume that we're adding into that top six very shortly, which I feel this puts Newhook into that perfect situation for him. I'm so excited to see what he'll do in that role, and I think because of that, he's really going to endear himself to Kent Hughes long term.
And especially with the, like you said, like the higher end talent now coming into this top six versus past years, it'll not only allow Alex Newhook to have a lot of freedom, kind of drive his own line, where he's had some success before, but also it'll push more skilled players down the lineup, right? Like, guys that were once our second line kind of players that Newhook would thrive with are now going to be third line kind of players. And if we just take a look again, like, remember, like, our third line this year could very well be Newhook, Evans, Laine. Like that's a pretty great third line, right? You get some speed with Newhook, you get some great defense and two-way play with Evans, and you get one of the best shots in the league in Patrik Laine. Will they work together? Who knows? But there's so many avenues here. I think you're bang on with Newhook. Like, I think the dude is going to stay a fantastic third liner. I don't know if he's going to be second line with this team. I don't think he needs to be, right? So we're going to see what the future holds with him. Kirby Dach, naturally, other teams are going to be interested. He still has so much potential. He's still so big. But I think not only does it hinge on Vancouver's start to this season, it also hinges on how he plays for Montreal. So we'll just have to wait and see. It'll be very interesting. But the final thing we got to get to today, Jesse, is another player who has been in trade talks, notably around the deadline. We were talking about maybe moving on from this guy, and he turned out to be absolutely pivotal in our playoff series. Yes, look, we lost the series very quickly, but Josh Anderson was such an impactful player. Now, this comes from the fourth period's recent list of top 25 trade candidates this offseason, and Josh Anderson's a name that popped up. And they said the Habs are currently over the salary cap. Yes, they got the carry price, we know, and remain active on the trade market. They want to add a number 2 center, that's no secret. Moving Anderson could be an option to help free up extra cap space. He owns a 5-team no trade. And you know what? That's actually a very good point, considering we know that the secondary trade market could very well establish itself in early August. That's what recent reports have been saying. And when you look at Montreal's cap situation, yeah, again, even ignoring the price thing, if we want to bring in like a high tier player, we're talking, $9-10 million player, if that were ever possible, which would be kind of crazy, you need to move out some money. And I feel like between Anderson and Gallagher, Anderson's the more likely guy to be moved. But I'm of two minds of this, Jesse. When we're talking about trading Josh Anderson, he was so important in that series against Washington. His physicality and his newfound role on the penalty kill were unbelievable this year. Yes, you wish for some more offensive production, but is it crazy to say I'm starting to get to the point where I'm like, this guy is actually really important to his team? Yeah, the cap hits high, but like, and maybe he could be replaced, but I'm not opposed to keeping him around, I don't know. What are your thoughts on Josh Anderson appearing on this list?
And that's the beautiful part of the story from Josh Anderson. So many ups and downs. Player from the previous regime where it did look like a bad contract, but with the cap going up, and I would say more importantly, him kind of embracing his role and kind of finding what that is on this team. I'm of the same mind. I'm okay with this contract. I think Kent Hughes is going to be as well. That's why I feel like he's going to stick around probably for another year, probably going to be like a trade deadline of next year type of thing, just because he's somebody that's found that type of role. You have to feel like with the Habs, my question to you, Josh, is, and to our viewers, again, let's know, this could be a little bit bold, but this year with the Habs getting better, are we going to see the Josh Anderson of old, where not only is he getting his opportunities, but he's making the most of it, getting back to that 20-goal range, which, dare I remind you, he has hit with the Habs in the past year. Like, Josh, do you think that he can do that this year in the role that he's given?
Oh, man, it's so tough because it depends on how many minutes his line plays, because we've seen over the last few years, like just last year, the Dvorak, Anderson, Gallagher line played so many minutes down the stretch. There was a lot of games where that was our second most used line behind our first line, not only because of the great defense, but the hustle and the scoring chances they were creating. A lot of advanced metrics had them as one of the best lines in hockey when they were playing together. So, like, you know, when you look at the lines, I think there's a real world that Anderson and Gallagher find themselves on the fourth line, but maybe that fourth line plays more. Maybe they put Evans between them instead, and you put Veleno, who is pretty skilled, with Newhook and Laine to have more of a skill line, and you have Evans, Anderson, Gallagher to kind of mimic the Dvorak line of last year. And if that's the case, I could absolutely see him getting a lot of time. And you know what, Jesse, again, with the depth of scoring that we have in the top lines, you know, there could be a world, 20 goals, maybe that, for me, that might be, it's tough to say. I think he can approach it. Yeah. He had 15 this past year, but I think more importantly, the physicality and the defense that he has found at this point in his career, I think he's fine now playing some defense and rolling with it. But to also go back on your point there, it's like, we know how important he is to this team, that defense, that physicality. You have to imagine some other teams probably see that importance too, and are maybe like, hey, like, instead of just dumping a contract, he probably still has a good amount of value. So you got to keep that into consideration too.
Absolutely. That's it. You know, I'm not ruling out the possibility of like a 19, 20 goal season. Again, with this team getting a little bit better, I just feel like a guy like Demidov is just going to add a lot of confidence to everybody on this lineup. And it's just going to trickle down, because that's the only you need for Anderson too. You got to remember, like, this is also a skill guy. He plays that physical thing, but he's got speed. He's still going to get to the front of the net. And again, once this team just scores a little bit more, again, it's just that mental side of the game just unlocks for them. That's the whole thing that you need to consider. That I think there's a world where you're having your cake and eating it too. Like, he's having 19, 20 goals, really knowing his role, you know, contributing physically. And again, you know, being a little bit of that mentor in that bottom six. Again, just such an amazing journey where player we really weren't sure about. Again, it's just kind of stuck in, really kind of put the team ahead of himself. And for that, I think everybody, including himself, is really benefiting.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of this team is going to benefit a lot this year, for not just from Ivan Demidov and like the impact he's going to have on like the depth scoring of this team and the vibes around the team, but like everything, again, it's the vibes, the camaraderie. Like, everyone seems to be locked in. I can't wait to see what's happening this year. We're fiending for some hockey, and I know you guys are too, but hey, guess what? We're here every single day to hopefully fill that need all off season long. And if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for being here. Like I said, every single day, it means the world. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.